Welcome to the Top Order podcast. It's ICC Champions Trophy time again. I am the dour Englishman to pour a little bit of cold water on the hotness that was New Zealand's performance today against Bangladesh. All coming up on the Top Order podcast. Stay tuned. Well, boys, as I mentioned in the very brief intro, I managed to see little glimpses of the game throughout the course of today. The UK day. You guys hopefully had a late night and an early start this morning to catch up on what was a clinical and fantastic victory for the Black Caps. But in age-honoured tradition, you've got to go to the winners for the spoils. So, Lip, I know you must be buzzing about the performance and where this leaves New Zealand in the context of this tournament. Is it a little bit early to dream?
It's not too early to dream. No. I think we're definitely dreaming over here in New Zealand. I mean, it's funny. I started the build up to this tournament. I just wasn't sure what to make of this team. You know, we just haven't played that many ODIs. We'd sort of been an up and down year for our tests. Some really big highs, but a few sort of down big lows. Actually, I felt. And I just didn't know what to make of it, but we played brilliantly in Pakistan, you know, in that tri-series. And now we've just, I think certainly the Pakistan performance was a better performance, if you ask me. You know, we'll break down in detail this game in a moment. But, I mean, Raj, I'll throw to you. I mean, top of the group, puts them into the semi-finals. I mean, how good's that, eh? Two wins from the tournament.
Yeah, 2 wins from the tournament. And like you said, you never know what you're going to get from New Zealand sometimes when it comes to these, tournaments. But, you know, we tend to traditionally be quite good at them. And this is, at the moment, nothing different. We've got India next, which is going to be an interesting test for us. But, look, we came out today just like we did in the Pakistan game. We won both sides of the ball. And, you know, it was a comprehensive win. You know, it's hard sometimes for us Kiwis to sort of say that, but our last two games have been really out of the textbook, and I think we should be proud of those two performances so far. 3 more to go.
Raj, I want to come to you because there's some individual performances in this game, and I know you have got plenty of Rachin Ravindra stock, almost as much as Lippy's got Will Young stock, I think. But quick info, I think, are saying MVP was Rachin, but the player of the match, Michael Bracewell. 2 fantastic performances, obviously one with bat and one with ball. Where would you lean if you were, giving out the moped at the end for the player of the match?
Yeah, I feel like those two accolades kind of overlap each other. I'm not sure how you differentiate them. Binksy, maybe we can get something from you or Baldy to sort of quantify that or qualify that. Look, I think that Rachin Ravindra, if we just focus on him first, his innings was incredibly important. Again, we were down a couple of wickets in that chase quite early, and he came in and steadied the ship there along with Devin Conway and Tom Latham towards the end there. But look, Rachin Ravindra, I think you mentioned off air, what does his ceiling look like? And really, we just can't see it at the moment. It is that high. His ceiling is in the stratosphere at the moment, and I'm really excited to watch him sort of blossom like this. We have been talking about him on this podcast for a long time now, even the sort of years before he was in the Black Caps team. There is a sort of running argument between myself and Lippy as to how he should have been introduced into this team, but we can forget about that now and just enjoy that he's in the team and slotting into positions where he might be a little bit less comfortable, sort of in the middle order. I guess it doesn't make a difference if you're coming out in the second or third over or whatever it was, the fourth over in this instance rather than opening. But he was in a not so familiar batting position and still brought the goods.
Yeah, look, he walks to the crease there with Tuscan's cleaned up Will Young. Naheed finds the edge of Kane Williamson's bat, and it's 15 for 2. And you're sort of thinking, he's come in because Daryl Mitchell's sick. He's not opening, but it's his timing. He times the ball so nicely at the start of his innings. When he's really going, it's that through point, through cover. And then, then he starts to get the pull going. He uses the crease. I mean, we've talked about this a lot on over the years. The way he uses the crease against spin is just so impressive. But we could go on a long time about how good he was, but I think what's even more interesting and what makes this a really quality innings is that this innings wasn't without its shaky moments. There were drop catches, there were missed run opportunities, balls looping short of fielders, over fielders. Even he got a really wide one down the leg side off Mustafiza, goes to flick it to the leg side, it balloons, top edge over the keeper. Don't get me wrong, excellent innings, but I think in the album of, Rachin Ravindra, excellent innings, it wasn't the most flawless, and in a way that almost shows that the fact that he can kind of keep his composure when things like that are happening and then still go on to score 100 and a really match-defining innings, it really, really is a special thing.
Yeah, and that was why I asked that question off air about where his ceiling is. I, as you all know, kind of don't necessarily always just look at the stats. We've got others on the pod that are more ardent students of that. I just look at his demeanour, and I've written down he's got ice in his veins. He just the way that he looked at the crease, it was kind of like, I am going to get this job done. Obviously, the period he batted with Devon Conway, and then after that, Tom Latham, he just kind of he had that sort of almost, I don't know, Steve Waugh or Michael Bevan sort of glint in his eye that he was going to be there at the end, and obviously he wasn't there quite at the end, but certainly when he walked off, it was game over. The game was iced at that point. Mention Michael Bracewell, 22 overs of spin from you guys today, Lit. You must be, I guess, really pleased with the way that Michael Bracewell and Mitchell Santner, and a couple of overs from Glenn Phillips. And again, I've got this question written down. This was one of the I guess Raj actually made the point in the Slack channel. Other than that England-Australia game, we've been seeing games in that sort of, old-fashioned sort of one-day international score territory, haven't we? The kind of, mid to late 200s rather than the mid to late 300s. But does the fact that you've got Bracewell and Phillips and Santner and perhaps even a bit of Rachin Ravindra at some point, is that potentially playing into your hands for the later stages of this tournament if these wickets do get a little bit tireder throughout the course of the tournament?
I mean, Bracewell coming in and being this cog in our unit, it really does help. I mean, Raj and I mentioned it briefly last time, just the balance that it adds to the side. And today in particular, I think they did a couple of things really, really well with Michael Bracewell. He's been coming in early on in the bowling effort. He came on, bowled one over in the power play again today. But I think they really got the field right to him, is the first thing I will say, because quite often you see an off spinner outside the power play, they'll put leg side. It's very easy to just work singles into the leg side. But what Mitchell Santner and Bracewell did today is that they had two fielders in the leg side, saving one, and then they had their boundary riders. And they had, so they had square leg, sort of a mid-wicket-ish area. So the Bangladesh batters actually had to work to get it through into that leg side. And it meant that he was able to build dots, just keep building. And he, to his credit, bowled really consistent line and lengths, drifted the ball nicely away from the right-handers, and he built that pressure and then just picked up wickets as a result. I mean, on the flip side, Raj, what do you make of how some of those middle-order batters from Bangladesh went about things? Because they got a really nice start from Shanto in particular, and then in Tanzid, they got them away, and then, I don't know, I'd be pretty disappointed if I was a Bangladesh fan today, looking at some of the experience and some of the shots that they played.
Yeah, 100%. As you said, they got away to a pretty good start, and I actually don't think that we bowled that poorly. Like, if you watched, the boundary balls and sort of what happened, they were a little bit shorter at the sort of beginning of the innings, but I think in between that we bowled some really decent deliveries that just didn't get us any wickets, unfortunately, at the top of the order. And then we needed something to switch the momentum. And as soon as Bracewell came on, I believe it was his first over, he got that wicket of Hassan there, and it was an instant change. And you're right, I don't think enough is sort of made of how good that field was for Michael Bracewell, not giving that single away. So often, definitely in one-day cricket, white ball cricket, we just give that one. We let that pressure off. Dan Vittori was the king of bowling four dot balls and then just releasing that one onto the offside. Like, that's beautiful one-day bowling, and I think we do something similar with our spinners in the current sort of format that we've got. So I don't think enough's made of that. I think that a couple of the wickets, you're looking at Mushfiqur Rahim, Mahmudullah, and Hendroy as well. Those wickets through the middle, I felt were gifted a little bit to New Zealand.
Yeah.
They did just sort of a little bit irresponsible in the way that they got out at a time where they could, if they tried to sort of turn the strike over, consolidate through that middle period, would have given them a chance to sort of jump at the end, but they didn't get that. O'Rourke, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that from you too. O'Rourke not getting the new ball, Kyle Jamieson coming in. I thought Kyle Jamieson actually provided that a bit of a point of difference to us. The ball was bouncing and it was hitting the gloves and the splice of the batsman. But O'Rourke with that sort of extra 5-10 Ks, he was very impressive when he came on in that sort of second change there. But I was surprised he didn't get the new ball.
Yeah, I was also surprised. I thought that the way he's bowled with the new ball recently has really been encouraging. The fact that he's been able to move the ball, and I think when he bowls a bit later, he doesn't quite get that movement, and he's got a lot of weapons already with the pace and the bounce and the height and all those kind of things. But why not give him another one? So I mean, for a start, I thought it was interesting that Jameson came in. We talked yesterday, me and Baldy, about how, I don't know, I just kind of find it interesting that Jameson wasn't in the squad. Wasn't in the squad before. Maybe that was selection injury related. Maybe they weren't sure if he was up to it when they named the squad, and so they named Duffy and Smith. And then they've now seen that yes, he's made it through the Super Smash. He's up for it, and they want to bring in that. They've seen the kind of pitches, they've seen the point of difference, and thought that that extra height is really going to be key. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm keen to hear what you think, Binksy, about this New Zealand bowling attack, because we obviously talked a bit about the spinners, but I think when I look at that attack, I'm really excited about what we can do up front as a seam attack. Will O'Rourke is really raw. He, you can see how many wides he bowls at times. He can spray it all over the place a little bit. It's improved. I feel like it's improving every game. Will O'Rourke, his control, but I sort of don't know what to make of us if that seam attack really has to be the ones who lead things, particularly at the end of innings.
Yeah, look, I guess it won't surprise you that I'll take the opposite view to you two in terms of where he's bowled. And the reason for that, I draw the comparison with the way the England team's setting up in this tournament, that, they've gone out in the press and made a pretty big deal of the fact that they want, and that they refer to it as high pace. And, in our lineup at the moment, that is Jofra Archer, Mark Wood, and to a lesser extent, Bryden Cast. And I think what's really probably quite difficult, and I might throw this back to you, is with that new white Kookaburra ball and the fact that Will O'Rourke is so raw, is the control going to be there from him, where you absolutely know that you're going to get control from Matt Henry. He's going to hit that shoebox pretty regularly. Kyle Jamieson has obviously been, plagued by injury a little bit over the course of the last 18 months, I guess, or so. But when he burst onto the scene, I think it was the fact that he had that, that control, that obviously that additional height. And then I think what's really, really important, particularly on these kind of wickets, is the ability for someone to bowl in the middle overs, particularly if your spinners aren't getting purchased, and be able to find a way to get a wicket. And Will O'Rourke has got that extra 4 or 5 kilometres. He's got the ability to probably bowl the short stuff in a slightly different way to the other two. So I actually really like the balance that gives you. To answer your question about whether or not that's then going to work at the death, that's where you do need that control. But I think in the context of the game today and the way that you handle the bowling changes, you only need to look through, the figures of the guys in those middle areas. They really squeeze so well for you, Bracewell and O'Rourke and Santner. So I think it was spot on for this this particular game of cricket, and it's great, I think, to see you playing in that way. A win gets you through into the semi-finals. It's done, and now you've got the ability, and I think you've got the makeup in that squad, really, to potentially give India a run for their money, if things go correct over the course of the next 3 or 4 games in terms of draws and all that kind of stuff.
Anything you want to add, Raj?
Just that, if I think of the sort of, this is a question for you, Stu, we'll come back to you, or straight back at you. In the elements of sort of a one-day game, I guess our middle order and lower order has been fired, has been tested, which is great, which is what you want to see in a sort of long tournament format. Our bowling at the sort of beginning and through the middle, we've got control and are taking wickets, which is great. You mentioned there the death bowling being an issue, hasn't been tested, so we're going to find out what that looks like. What do you make of the top order not really getting a handle on things, perhaps, over these last 2 games? Do you think that's a problem for us, or are you expecting Kane Williamson in particular to sort of stand up over these next sort of 2 to 3 matches?
Are you asking me if Kane Williamson is my concern?
Or do you think he's any good? Yeah, basically, yeah.
I mean, it's not ideal that he's failed twice, but yeah, I mean, look, he's such a good player, and I think I think you would be worried if it was the same kind of people missing out. But obviously, we had Will Young score 100 in the first game, and then we've had Conway and get at least a start, and whether Mitchell's back for the next game, who knows? And that might, unfortunately, if that's the case, then obviously one of Conway. I would say Conway, but one of Conway or Young probably has to miss out for Mitchell to come back in and Ravindra to slot back up to the top. I don't think we're in a situation where we're talking about Kane Williamson kind of being on the hot seat or anything like that with the quality that he's shown over so many years and the great form that he was in the Tri Series. So yeah, look, I'm not too worried, and I think the contributions from lots of different people has been what's been so encouraging about the Tri Series, about the first couple of games in this Champions Trophy. And, on that point, I really do want to highlight Tom Latham today because, as I said when I was talking about Rachin, there were a few nervy moments in this game today. It's this chase, and it was, 236. It doesn't look like a difficult chase on paper. They get it 5 down with balls to spare. I think if you go back and look, if you're just looking at the scorecard, you think, oh, they've done this reasonably well. But Tom Latham's last couple of innings, he's been just so rock solid. He's everything we expect from Kane Williamson, the steady the ship kind of feeling that he gives you. Tom Latham's given me that when he's walked to the crease. Katie Martin talked about it quite a lot on commentary about the way that he's been, the slight technical change that he's made to his backlift, and it seems to be giving him more time, and it seems to be having a huge impact. He's someone who we know that he loves sweeping off the spinners, but I think off the paces is what's been. He's just finding the middle of the bat now. It seems like he's not rushed. He's able to see the ball, hit the ball, and today in particular, when Conway got out, it was 70-odd for 3, I think it was. It was a bit shaky, and Latham just played a calm innings, rotated the strike for long periods of time, and just let Rachin do his thing. And it meant that we built that partnership, and as you said, by the time Rachin went out, it was game over. So, he's just been that steadying influence, and I don't think that anyone foresaw that going into this tournament, the form that he'd been in, and then the fact that he's been able to do it twice in a row is just super encouraging. So yeah, look, I mean, there's been so many positives over these past 2 games, and yeah, I just think we're, as Binksy said, it's hard not to kind of get excited about what could happen. As you've got India next, which is in a lot of ways a meaningless game. It's a free hit that we can go out there and I think you want to go in there for lots of different reasons to try and win the game still and carry out your game plans. But now we go into a semi-final, and you win a semi-final, you win the final, you've won the tournament. So yeah, it's very, very exciting. Binksy, is there anything else you want to throw at us before we sort of look at tomorrow's match?
Yeah, I just think probably a word on Bangladesh, and I think you touched on it. I think Raj, in your sort of critique of their middle order, I think what was disappointing was they have gone with some of the, let's face it, the older guard, Mushfiqur and Mohamedullah. They were, weak shots, weren't they, in that kind of middle order? You've obviously got no Shakib. He could have played as a batter, I believe, but I think, from a bowling perspective, he's currently undergoing some remedial stuff, isn't he, for his action? So I just wonder whether it's a reset now for them. And to probably, clear out some of these guys that have played a lot of white ball cricket. Strange for me that there's a couple of omissions there. No Litton Das, for example. It just feels a bit weird and feels a bit of a time for a reset for that middle order, particularly.
Yeah, look, I mean, I would tend to agree. I think there's some bright spots there in some of the youngsters. We talked in the preview, I think, about guys like Hridoy and Shanto and Tunzid and some of the youth that they do have coming through. It's obviously they need to put that consistency together, and obviously today was an example of some of those guys, not being consistent enough. But the bowling is as well. There's Naheed, who looks a real talent.
He does. Yeah,
super fast. Rashad today looked good again. Every time I see him bowl, he looks good. And in a way, I think he could have come on a lot earlier. I thought Shanto maybe had not his best game as captain in the field. He brought himself on, and I thought that was a weird decision to bring himself on for that one over, bowled a really poor one, and Rachin deposits him for 6 and 4 and released a lot of the pressure that Bangladesh was squeezing on New Zealand. So, yeah, look, they've got a lot of things to work on. We knew that going into the tournament. I don't think it's especially surprising to see how they've gone, but yeah, you might be right. People who know Bangladesh cricket better than me might have more to say on it, but it does feel like they might have to lean in even more so to some of these younger players coming through and really try and build the team around them going forward.
Absolutely. Raj, anything from you, or should we move on and take a quick look at tomorrow?
Nothing from me. Actually, one thing from me, just Taskin. I think he's been bowling really well, especially with the white ball stuff. I feel like I'm always talking about him, and that might be a sort of a symptom of the rest of the bowling attack being a little bit weaker, but I seem to always be talking about him and his performances. He seems to sort of stand out. Gave them a really good chance with that wicket of Will Young early on, that wicket maiden at the beginning of the innings. So I think that the elements are there. They just need to sort of bring them together, and they're always a danger to us on the subcontinent. I was actually really surprised to see they brought up a stat there that it was 11 to 33. Sort of Bangladesh to New Zealand. It feels much more equal than that from my sort of recent thinking. But I think that, as you said, the elements are there, but I'm not sure what's going on from a selection policy perspective and strategic perspective. But I don't think that they're miles off.
Yeah, look, we've played them. I think that number probably is we've played them so many times. I think in New Zealand they've come here. Quite often, it feels like we play them all the time in our summers. So, I would say we don't go there as often. So that might be where that comes from. Binksy, I'm keen to get your thoughts about tomorrow if we're moving into Australia and South Africa, because obviously it's the group that contains England, Afghanistan the following day. What do you, from an England point of view, what do you actually want to happen in this Australia South Africa game?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because the right answer is I want Australia to win, because then I think it makes it makes it more likely that we can beat Afghanistan hopefully day after tomorrow, and we've got a little bit more in our own hands, I think, than the other way around. So I think the permutations start to open up in a way that doesn't look optimum for us if there's kind of three of us. Keep a close eye on net run rate as well, I think, throughout the course of the game. I just hope it's a humdinger, because I think we talked a lot in the preview show about Australia probably being in that favourites after India category, but we also talked up South Africa a lot, didn't we? And said how excited we were about the team that they were going to put on the park and some of the firepower they'd got. So look, I think the tournament's been great so far. We've seen, we've seen some pretty decent cricket. We've seen a couple of fairy tales as well, which has been nice. But another close game would be, I think, the best advert for this tournament tomorrow.
And Raj, what are you looking out for as sort of the key things in tomorrow's game?
For me, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with selection. Klaasen coming back in. I'm assuming he will slot straight back in. What do they do there? Do they drop? I was going to say Christchurch's own, Rickerton's own Ryan Rickerton. Try saying that fast 3 times. What does that sort of look like going forward? One of the quotes of the of the cricketing folklore of the last 12 months came from Alex Carey, where he said, "We probably don't want to be chasing 350 too many more times." Look, I think that the Australia-England game wasn't absolutely, as Binksy says, a humdinger. And look, I was very, very surprised that Australia were able to chase down the 350, and it felt like with ease. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that game. I don't, as Binksy said, if I was in English shoes, I would be barracking for the old enemy Australia, which gives you makes you the master of your own destiny, I guess, with Afghanistan and South Africa coming up. But hoping for a good cricket all round.
Yeah, I'm not sure it'll be 350 if based on, because it's at Rawalpindi again, I think, isn't it? If we're thinking about the pitch that played last night between New Zealand and Bangladesh, it was too paced. It sort of felt like it got slower, through Bangladesh's innings, and then maybe sort of quickened up a little bit again once the lights came on and things. But was still. Yeah, I don't think it was a 240 pitch, but I don't think it was a 350 pitch either. So, yeah, maybe we'll be looking at sort of I guess for me, the approaches that the two sides take, particularly Australia and South Africa are two of the sides. Well, South Africa showed how they want to sort of build the template. They try and, they want it to be 50, 60 off that first 10 and then really go hard at the end, whereas Australia might be more inclined to try and go hard early, although obviously they lost a few wickets in doing that last time around. So, yeah, look, I think it was I was really impressed with Australia to win that game. I had pretty much as I don't like to write Australia off, I thought that, it's too many injuries. There's too many things against them going into this tournament. And to get that win, confident Australians are a real problem, and to get that win is really set them has really set them up nicely. So yeah, look, this has all the makings of a quality game, and I don't know. Both these sides are dangerous. They're both sides that I don't want to face from a New Zealand point of view going in that semi-final. So yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, Lippy couldn't agree. You could take the word confident out of that sentence and it still makes sense. But yeah, we'll give Bordy a right of reply later in the week. But yeah, unless there's any sort of final thoughts, I think just, massive congratulations to the Black Caps today through into the semi-finals of yet another ICC World event. Let's hope, from your boys' perspective, you can get the engraver busy, writing a couple of words on that trophy in a few days' time. But for now, it is good night and good morning and good bless from us all here at the Top Order Podcast. We will be back in your feeds for our daily shows tomorrow. I think we've certainly got Michael Baldy back on the mic tomorrow, and then we'll be back later in the week to wrap up further games. But for now, it is good night and good bless. We'll see you soon.